Hello, so in this video I want to talk about living with regret versus living with rejection and which of these R's actually equals abandonment. Abandonment of the self. So there was a great book that I read years and years ago by a lady that she was a palliative care nurse and she spent time with people at the end of their life, and she basically documented the 5 biggest regrets of the dying. So when people are on the deathbed and they look back at their life, which obviously you're going to do when you know you're at that point where you're transitioning out of the physical body into the spiritual realm, you're obviously going to then be contemplating the life you came, because you came here as a spiritual being having a human existence to experience life, not to be put in a box of restrictions like many of us have been and have experienced through the mind control programs that have been that are throughout our society. So many of them had, well, one of the biggest regrets was living a life of expectation and not taking those leaps of faith, those chances, not following the nudges that they were feeling inside them. So that was one of the biggest regrets. And why do we often do that? Well, often we do it because we're afraid of rejection. We have all been rejected at some point in our life, and through that rejection, because we've not been taught from a young age about the spiritual truth of who we are and that we're here to experience certain experiences to expand the soul. And actually one of the biggest tools that we have to learn is actually pain, and it's actually difficult experiences. And we've been taught that anything that we go through that appears to be bad, that has negative emotions, we've been taught that that is bad. And if that's happening and it's bad and it feels bad, that must mean I am bad. You know, we've been taught that from a very young age, not necessarily always consciously, although sometimes consciously. But certainly from a subconscious perspective as children, that's what we interpret a lot of the experiences. So we're not taught about our spiritual truth and who we really are. So when we experience bad situations, we feel rejected, we feel rejection equals I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. We don't understand from a higher perspective that rejection is often protection, that rejection is often a springboard into a new timeline, onto a new path. Sometimes the universe, our souls need certain events to shake us up, to get us to wake up out of the subconscious spells and programs that we are in. And often we don't pay attention unless it's chaos, unless it's a big event that has us feeling a lot of emotions. It's like in this earth there is both negative and positive energies, and both have to exist to have the balance. And I once heard a guy who remembers a lot of past lives talk about this in a way which I really enjoyed. And what he said is, sometimes the angel will be on your shoulder, the angel will be on your shoulder, and it will be telling you need to take a different path. Something in your heart will be trying to guide you on a new path, whether that's out of a relationship that has served its purpose, that has become toxic, or a job. It could be anything, and you could be being told nice and lightly, it's time to make a change. However, because we are heavily conditioned and we create a lot of fears in the mind, false experiences appearing real, often we ignore those nudges. Often we ignore the universe trying to get us on to a new path for our growth and expansion, because that's why the soul came to experience life, not to fit in and obey. So when the angel is not getting your attention because you're distracting yourself through addictions, perhaps drink, drugs, perhaps being a workaholic, shopping, whatever it is, eventually the angel speaks to the dark and says to the dark, they're not listening. I'm going to need your help to wake them up. And often that's when the tough experience will come in and basically wake you up and get you to pay attention. So rejection, actually, if we flip the perspective of rejection, we start to understand that rejection is not bad. Rejection does not mean I am not enough, does not mean there is something wrong with you, and it's something that we need to learn to face rather than run away from, because as we run away from rejection, what we are doing is abandoning the self. We are not listening to the soul trying to nudge us into a new direction, a new experience. And what will happen at the end of your life, or maybe not even at the end of your life, it could be a year from now, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you're going to be sat in regret. You're going to look back and wonder why you wasted that time. Why? And I don't want to say wasted time, because no time is wasted. Whatever path we choose, we're always going to learn and expand. But you're going to ask yourself why I didn't have the courage or cultivate the courage to take the steps to listen to the soul that is asking us to move in a certain direction, to take a leap of faith, to take an emotional risk. We are so scared of emotional risk to a point that you could ask the question, are we really living, or are we a slave, enslaved to subconscious programs of fear, false experiences appearing real? Now, when we take action, when we listen to the stirrings of our soul, our heart, rather than allowing the mind to enslave us and dictate what we do, now when we take action, we are having to tap into parts of ourselves like courage. And using courage does not mean having no fear. Courage is acting even though you feel a bit of fear. But once you move into courage, you're actually moving up the scale of consciousness. You're moving out of the lower level of consciousness, which is shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, and you're crossing over into the higher levels of consciousness, which is courage, acceptance, willingness, love, understanding, and we're starting to spiral up and expand out. Now, it might be that you take a leap of faith and the outcome is not what you want or you expect. You know, I've definitely been through this where I had to really dig deep and be really vulnerable and be really open, and it was really tough for me to do it because of subconscious past programming around pushing down emotions, hiding emotions, which we all have, but through an experience with somebody, that person actually, because of the bond that I felt with them, they gave me the courage to actually express what I was really feeling inside. And I had the nudges, I knew that my soul was telling me, look, you need to expand and grow here, you need to move, you need to use courage to express how you are feeling. And when I did that, I just went in with the intention of, I'm just gonna express how I'm feeling, I'm gonna be brave, I'm just going to face my fears and do it anyway. And when I did that, I didn't get the response that I necessarily wanted out of that outcome. However, after that experience, I experienced a massive shift. It's very hard for me to explain that logically, but I experienced a huge shift in my energetic body, in my consciousness, and it sent me onto a new timeline. And that, it wasn't just that experience, but that experience was one catalyst. And I know that it happened because I chose to listen to my soul, and I chose to face the fears of the mind, and I chose to take that leap of faith. And it's led to many wonderful things in my life. It's really spiritually awoken me on levels that I never even knew existed. And it's a continual journey. But from taking that step, it allowed me to cultivate courage, and it allowed me to use that to do it even more. And the more that I started to listen to myself, be more authentic, the better the more enriched my life and experience have become, the deeper my connections have become. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a finished version, and no one is. This is a journey of expansion and growth. So this video really is to encourage you to listen to the soul, to listen to what's inside, and to work out what is fear and what is your truth, and to have the courage, to cultivate the courage to follow your truth no matter the outcome. Don't attach to the outcome, and know that whatever the outcome is, because you have been authentic, because you have been honest and raw with yourself and express your truth, that is always going to lead to something more wonderful. Even if it's not in that instant moment, you'll look back and you'll realize that it catapulted you into higher dimensions. So just a little short video to ask you to look at rejection from a different perspective and realize rejection's really protection and really a gateway into higher levels of consciousness. And we shouldn't run from rejection. We should not allow the fear of rejection to stop us from taking those steps, because if you live with regret, that is really a cancer for the soul. It's really a disease for the soul. The soul does not want to live in regret. The soul came here to expand and grow and to take risks, to go into the unknown, just because we've been programmed to stay safe. Imagine if when we were born, we feared, like, going into the unknown. We'd all still be crawling right now, but we don't fear going into the unknown as children. We absolutely love it. It's an adventure. We want to be in the unknown, and it's only really as we start to grow that we get conditioned to stay safe and stay in the known, whereas really the magic happens in the unknown, in the mystery of the universe, in the connection to the higher levels of consciousness. And that means moving out of all those fears, anxieties, or even if like say with courage, you still have fear, but that is your first step to moving higher on the consciousness scale. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope it gives you some inspiration. Thank you.